This will be a full game commentary of my decision making and rotations while playing the Dagger Pistol Daredevil build. Um, so from the start, you always want to look at the comps because your rotations and matchups are going to rely on your comp versus theirs. So my comp is a Revenant, Warrior, Mesmer, Guardian, Thief, which is kind of a lackluster comp in my opinion. It doesn't really have too much going on for it because the firebrand doesn't really have a place other than with the Revenant, but the Revenant also wants to be with the Thief, so that's not a very good three-man comp because that'll lose to the top tier three-man comp, which the enemy team actually has, which is Scourge, Firebrand, Hollow. It and that's the best comp right now because it has the two highest DPS classes in it, the Hollow and the Scourge, with a Firebrand, which is the highest supportive class, which allows them to survive long enough to do their damage. So their comp is actually a lot better than ours. So what I need to do this match is try to separate the synergy between those classes by making them rotate into places where they can't make value off of their synergy. So immediately off the start, I try to separate them by harassing them before they get to middle node. Now I don't really do that too well, so when I eventually do go into mid, there isn't really much pressure. I'm gonna look for a target though, which their Hollow is really not the best target because he has invulnerabilities. Probably want to go for the Scourge or the Firebrand. So as soon as my steel's up again, I go straight for the Scourge. And I steal right now because he had just gotten his stability. So now I can pressure him with CC and get Pulmonary Impact, which it does extra pressure as well. And we get the Scourge down, but I need to sacrifice a lot of my health to put pressure on that down to try to snowball the fight. And I'm too low to really continue doing that, so I need to reset. And I go to far node to get value out of my time spent resetting. I can, reset while also getting a decap. But I think we're losing mid right now, so probably going for a decap is a good decision here. I would normally go for a decap instead of a full cap because I can't really hold the node anyway. So if something comes to me and tries to take the cap from me, I'm going to give it away anyways. So just decapping it to prevent them from getting points is usually best as a thief because you want to go for kills, not for caps. And I stay here a little bit because I know that Mesmer is something that Thief can actually 1v1. But it does become a 2v2 because my Revenant and their Ranger come here. And immediately I should have swapped to the Mesmer. But I waste a little bit of time with the Druid. You should always go for the easiest kill in a 2v2 comp like Rev and Thief because you don't really have that much sustain, so you really need to get your kill fast, and we do get a kill pretty decently fast, and once we do convert the down into something dead, you can easily just 2v1 the last thing. But in this case, the Ranger disengages, which is intelligent, because a Rev and a Thief will destroy a Ranger very quickly. So I try to pressure this Necro, who is off the node and not near his Firebrand. That's kind of the perfect positioning to kind of catch Scourge. But I realize that he's going to go to mid anyways, where his Firebrand is going to support him. And I don't want to overcommit to the middle point when we don't really want to be there. And I think my team is making a huge mistake in overcommitting to there when we have a Warrior or a Mesmer who can easily hold home versus the Ranger who is now full capping that, instead of trying to decap by pressuring a Firebrand Scourge comp, which they aren't really equipped to do. So they have their 3-man comp at mid versus our Mesmer and Guardian and Warrior, which is they're gonna win, right? So I try to I shadow step here into mid because I want my shadow return to be somewhere near home, so that when the ranger gets baited into thinking that I invested into mid, I can easily just shadow return and get the decap. Whereas if I just went for the decap when I initially attempted it, the ranger would have been ready and able to prevent me. So I wouldn't have got the decap, but now I do, and the ranger comes and answers while my team is losing mid node right now. So I'm gonna try and salvage the situation as best as I can. They're 2v1ing far, and I go to far to kind of I try to bait the Engie into going there and follow me, and then I stealth and go back to mid for the decap. And the Guardian here I can 1v1 the Guardian, but I really want to be somewhere getting kills. But I realize that the Necro is here, and if I can hold the Necro here with the Firebrand, I'm sort of creating good matchups for my team. Unfortunately, my Firebrand came to 2v2 with me, which is actually not really a good 2v2 comp. Firebrand and Thief doesn't have really good damage. It needs supplemental damage, which Firebrand can't give. I +1 the Druid, and he goes into stealth, and I immediately play super aggressive in the direction that I think he's going, and I actually did land a lot of damage on him while he was in stealth there. I'm pretty sure I landed a Heartseeker there, so that as soon as he came out of stealth, he was low, and I used all of my cooldowns to try to get the kill as fast as possible, because Druid can instantly reset, so you need to burst them down before they can fully reset with all of their healing capabilities. So we have sides right now, and I try to snowball onto mid because we're outnumbering them right now with our 3-man comp against their 2-man comp. Now, they have a Blood Scourge, so you always want to focus Blood Scourge first, because they can't really retaliate as well as a Curse's Scourge would. And if you focus the Firebrand, which is actually a little bit easier to focus, the Scourge has the really scary potential of getting a res and making you essentially waste all of the time you invested into getting that kill. So you want to go for the Scourge first if he's blood, and probably go for the Firebrand first. If you're Sword Dagger, you pretty much always want to go for the Firebrand first. But if you go for the Necro as DP, it's actually really good because you can lock them down and get pulmonary value while also preventing them from casting. So we snowball that, and we have far and mid. So what we really want is the Warrior to stay at far while I plus this at home. And we have the Firebrand kind of like watching mid, which is not ideal, but it's good enough because we'll be able to get this kill at home, right? It's a 2v1. So we have far, but far is getting 4v2'd, I think. So I really need the Guardian should have prevented them from dying at far. Like he should have seen that everyone was there and responded, but instead he was just sitting at mid and not really doing anything. He was getting no value for his time. So we do die at far because they're so outnumbered. And I try to salvage the situation, but I really shouldn't be here at all right now. I should just... The Necro kind of pushed into mid, and I should have went for that immediately, because you want to prevent people from pushing into objectives that you own, so that you aren't forced to defend them. You're just fighting them in an area where there's no objective. If you own an objective and you're unable to defend it, you don't want to fight for the objective, right? But if you don't own the objective and you can fight for it, then you do want to fight near the objective. But as a thief, right, you can't stand on node because your mobility is a lot of your survivability, so you can't just stand on node. So fighting people in roads is actually, it gives you much better matchups because you have the survivability of not being forced to stand on a node. So what I do here is actually a pretty big play. I complete the whole dagger auto chain on the Guardian because the last hit is the largest damaging component of it. And then I immediately black powder into backstab because the aftercast of the dagger auto chain is reset by the very fast precast of a backstab. And the black powder also, or the blinding powder rather, is very good at removing Aegis because it blinds, right? So if they block the blind, then they don't block the backstab, and that allows me to do enough damage in little enough time to prevent the Guardian from re-sustaining himself, which is really important because if a Guardian gets, any amount of time to heal itself, that's more time that I need to be, that's more damage that I need to do overall. And on a class that has limited DPS, it's really important to get kills as quick as possible. Now, unfortunately, the Necro does get the res because he had a precasted transfusion, so it's actually quite unfortunate that we wasted basically all the time there because now they're going to resustain and we can't really get that kill. So I'm really questioning where I want to go right now because the Ranger, I don't really want to fight the Ranger if he goes home. I don't really want to try to kill mid because we had already wasted so much time there. So I want to split them up. Now, me rotating out sort of baits their Necro into getting into a fight in Rhodes, which, as I said before, is an insanely better situation. We can actually get kills in Rhodes rather than on the node because we're not forced to stand on a node here. But I don't think we're able to get this kill because the Guardian gets off the node and reses. But that means that they're not on the node, so I can quickly port to it and get a decap, which is an insanely better situation for us because fighting on their node is way less value than fighting on a neutralized node. So I don't want to be in that situation still because as we've seen before, it's a really low kill potential situation. Instead I go to far, which is actually a pretty bad choice as well. I think maybe staying mid here was still the better choice because I created a 2v2 with a warrior versus an Engie and a Mesmer, and in that situation my warrior actually has to be very good at pressuring and surviving because they're mainly going to just focus him, and he actually does a really bad job of surviving. He just dies on the node instead of kiting. So I'm left a 1v2 here. I probably should have been mid earlier, and I think I greed here for the Mesmer kill just so I can stall long enough for them to actually get a kill mid. But they're 2v1ing home, so as soon as I see that, I should immediately go to mid. Yeah, I go to mid because there's no win condition with me stalling far. We need to get kills because we don't own the map. And as you can see, my team is kind of hovering around mid. They're not really going, they're not pressuring cooldowns for me. So when I get to mid, it's the Necro is full health. Now fortunately, the Necro still instantly dies and we get the stomp. So I'm gonna try and secure the decap by pressuring the Guardian off node, but my Mesmer dies instantly to their Mesmer who rotated in from far, which is kind of questionable. To be honest, I think this Mesmer was throwing the whole game because he had really had all of his cooldowns. He must have had all of his cooldowns because we just instantly killed the Necros, so it's really questionable play there by him. And I think at this point there's really no win condition. If we didn't get the res on that Mesmer, then we can't win. So that's kind of, I think if I had stayed at mid and just got the kill there, even though it was a bad matchup, it was still more kill potential than me going far into a 2v2 with a warrior. So I think, yeah, even though a lot of these points that we gotten was due to me creating rotations for my team, at the same time I think I could have carried a little harder by just staying mid and outnumbering instead of going to far, which was already 1v2, and he would be low on cooldowns, and then he would have to leave, and then I would get focused, and then at that point you've already wasted so much time. I should have just stayed where I was and just keep momentum there. So yeah, that's it for this commentary. If you want more videos like this, just subscribe, and I'll see you next time.